Hey there guys, it's Mrs. Matheson here. We're going to cover Unit 5, Notes 4, Zero Product Property and Applications. So let's first get down, what is the zero product property? Oh, there we go. Zero product property says if A times B equals 0, then either A equals 0 or B equals 0. So think about it this way. We can take A times 0. Well, what's A times 0? 0. So therefore, in this one, B was 0. Or we can take 0 times B. Well, what's 0 times B? 0. So that meant that our A was 0. So if we ever have something that's equal to 0, that means one of the two terms or three terms that was multiplied to get there would be equal to 0. So let's apply that to this first problem here. Number 1 says x plus 6 times x minus 4 equals 0. So think about this first part here as our A times our second part, which is our B. So we are going to solve for either A being 0 or B being 0. So whenever you see something like this with two sets of parentheses, you should think zero product property. I'm going to split it up into two separate problems. When my A or my first term is 0 or my B, my second term, is 0. So now we're thinking we have two separate problems and we're going to solve them both for x. So in my first one, I have x plus 6 equals 0. So if I minus 6 to both sides, my x equals negative 6. That's one of my solutions. Looking at the second problem, I have x minus 4 equals 0. So if I solve for x, I'm going to add 4, so we get x equals positive 4. All right, so if you see two sets of parentheses and it equals 0, think zero product property. I'm going to be setting something equal to 0. So we're going to set our first set of parentheses equal to 0. And let's solve for x. So minus the 8. So we have 2x equals negative 8. And we want to get x by itself by dividing by 2. So we get x equals negative 4. That's only half of our answer. Now we're going to set our second set of parentheses equal to 0. Add the 2 to both sides. And we get 3x equals 2. Divide both sides by 3. And it is totally fine for us to have a fraction of 2/3. All right, so in both of these cases, we had two sets of parentheses that were multiplied by each other, and they equaled 0. So we set each of them equal to 0. Now looking at 3 and 4, 3 and 4 we see we don't have some parentheses, but think about if I covered up that equals 0 and that was gone, so if we pretend that equals 0 is gone and look just there, we see we have a trinomial. We should be thinking, ooh, trinomial, I'm going to factor. So that's actually what we're going to do even with the equals 0 there. We are going to factor. So think about your big X, multiplies to negative 20, and adds to a positive 1. You're looking for a negative and a positive. Thinking of your factors of negative 20 that multiply, we're going to get a negative 4 and a positive 5. Now think about, we can use our shortcut for this one because our A, or our number in front of the squared term, is 1. So we can go right to y minus 4 and y plus 5. If you're unsure of that shortcut, make sure you ask your teacher about it to get some clarification. All right, so we're going to set each piece equal to 0. Y minus 4 equals 0, so we add 4 to both sides, and we end with y equals 4. We're going to set our second one, y plus 5 equals 0, so minus 5 to both sides, and we get y equals negative 5. All right, I'm going to leave you guys 4 to try. So again, our A term is a 1, so we can use our shortcut for this one. We go to 5 and 6. 5 and 6, our A term, or the term in front of our squared term, is not equal to 1. So here's where we're going to do that multiply by the end term. So we're thinking about what multiplies to negative 36 and adds to a positive 5. You're looking for a negative and a positive. So I'll let you go through your math facts and figure out what multiplies to a negative 36 and adds to a positive 5. Did you come up with negative 4 and positive 9? If you did, great job. All right, we're going to plug those in. So we are going to do our 6p squared Now we're plugging our middle terms in. Minus 4p plus 9p minus 6 equals 0. Don't forget to take that equals 0 along. It's not important until we get to those two parentheses. All right, we have 4 terms, and we don't have a GCF out of all of them, so we are going to break them up to do our grouping. All right. So reminder of grouping, think about what can you factor, what's your greatest common factor you can factor out of each of those. So factor out a 2p from the first set of brackets, and we're left with 3p minus 2. And the second two, 6 and 9, I'm going to take out a 3, and it's going to be a positive 3. So we get 3p minus 2. Don't forget to tack on the equal 0. This is wonderful that we see our two sets of parentheses are the same. So we have 3p minus 2, and then our leftovers go into the other set of parentheses. 2p plus 3 equals 0. This problem is not done now, but I think that you are all competent enough to finish it, set our first set of parentheses equal to 0, solve for p, and do the same for the second set of parentheses. All right, 6 is all yours, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget, a is not equal to 1, so multiply your first term times your last term. All right, that's going to bring us here to a word problem with problem 7. 7 says, a flare is launched from a life raft. The height h of the flare in feet above the sea is modeled by the formula h equals 100t minus 16t squared, where t is the time in seconds after the flare is launched. Let h equal 0 and solve 0 equals 100t minus 16t squared for t. How many seconds will it take for the flare to return to sea? So let's just talk about this. You're in a life raft, you shoot off a flare. In the life raft, you are at a height of 0 feet, and you want to know how long is it going to be in the air, and then will it come down to the sea. So that's why our h is 0 again, is because it's returning down. So we have 0 equals 100t minus 16t squared. All right, I see my function has just 2 terms in it, so always look for a GCF first. 116 has a GCF of 4. And I notice I have a t and a t squared. Oh, I think that is it. We are going to look at factoring out that t. So we're ending with 25 minus 4t. Now notice here we don't have 2 big sets of parentheses, but we do have 2 sets of parentheses. So we're going to set each of these equal to 0. So we have 4t equals 0. Divide both sides by 4. And we have t equals 0. So time of 0. And then we have 25 minus 4t equals 0. Go ahead and minus over the 25. And we're left at negative 4t equals negative 25. What do we want to do now that we have that over there? Yep, we're going to get that t by itself by dividing by negative 4. So divide by negative 4, divide by negative 4. Cancels. We see negative divided by a negative, so we're going to have a positive, and we get 6.25. Now we have 2t here. Which one is my correct answer? Well, which one answers my question? How many seconds will it take for the flare to return to the sea? Well, think about it. When you shoot it off, that's time 0. When it hits the background, back down to the water, that's going to be our 6.25 seconds. All right. We are going to finish up our word problems tomorrow in class. So we have problems 8, 9, and 10. I just want to set 8 up for you. And then see if you can give 8 a try, and we'll start off with class there. It says the length of a rugby field is 52 meters longer than its width W. So write an expression for the area of the field. Field, it's a rectangle, and width is W, and it says the length is 52 meters longer. Area of a rectangle, length times width. I'm going to take W times W plus 52. And it says, actually, the next sentence says, if the area of the field is 8160 meters, what are the dimensions of the field? Ooh, this one's not equal to 0. See if you can get it set up so it's equal to 0. Get rid of those parentheses and get it equal to 0. And we'll start there tomorrow. See you guys then.